Welcome to 312, the HRP Podcast. It is Women's History Month, a month-long celebration to honor women's often overlooked contributions to American history. The marketing departments in architecture, engineering, and construction firms are widely staffed by women who play a significant role in revenue generation, the client experience, and strategic marketing and branding. In today's Work Hard segment of 312, we will be talking to a group of professional AEC marketers about the value marketing departments bring to their firms, business strategies industry firms should consider, and advice for the next generation. Then, kick back with us for a Friday Play Hard segment. It's all coming up next on 312. My name is Alicia Washington. I am the Director of Marketing and Jedi at HRP Associates. I have been a professional AEC marketer for 18 years.
My name is Maisha Hagan. I am the owner and head coach at Beauty and the Boss, a professional development and career coaching service for women in male-dominated industries, and I have been in the AEC industry for 20 years.
I'm Janky DePalma. I'm the Director of Business Development for Kirksey Architecture, and I have been in the AEC industry for 20 years.
My name is Lindsay Matthew. I'm the owner of Golden Egg Concepts. I provide marketing communications consultant services to AEC firms. I've been in the industry as an AEC marketer for 20 years.
So we're here today to talk about the AEC industry, but marketing in the AEC industry. So I'm real excited about this conversation because I think that with the AEC industry being as large as it is, even though most people will probably look at it as so small, AEC marketing is such a big component of that. And we have marketers, we have BD professionals, we have sales professionals. And, you know, a lot of times, especially with like the outreach that I do, a lot of people don't even know that this is even a job you can have. Like people don't know about AEC. They don't know about the marketing component. And sometimes I feel like for me, when I say I do marketing, especially when I talk to my family, they just assume that I do advertising or that kind of marketing. And so it's just cool to be like, actually, no, there's a whole different world out there. So I wanted to have that conversation today. Thank you, ladies, for joining HRP and having this conversation. And let's get into it. So Maisha, you know, what is your favorite thing about AEC marketing?
I think kind of to what you were saying about people not realizing that there's marketing components to other businesses, we kind of operate like ninjas, right? Like we are not always at the forefront visibly, but all of the magic that is happening behind the scenes, many times our hands are in that, whether that's internal or whether that's external to the community, whether that's external to the marketplace or to specific clients. And I just think that's a really cool function of business. And personally, I just have always really enjoyed being a part of that.
Absolutely. How about you, Lindsay?
Yeah, I think what I love about working in the AEC marketing space is just the diversity of every day in this industry. I like to say that, you know, I touch everything your brand touches, and that can come in every different form, whether it's the typical RFP responses and proposals to things such as podcasts, to vehicle and graphics and signage. I mean, it's really everything that your logo and your brand is associated with. Marketing's behind that. And I just love that. I think that there's so much more to it than maybe the typical common tasks that are, you know, falling into that bucket of what an AEC marketer does. I remember when I started this business, everyone said to me, you know, you're starting a consulting business. Why would you niche out, you know, in the AEC world? And I said, really, it's not a niche. It is a niche in that it's a specialization, but it is so broad, not only as an industry itself, but in terms of the marketing, you know, air quotes, that part of what we do is very broad. It's very diverse. There's so much that rolls up to that function.
Janky?
For me, what I find fascinating, especially in the last, you know, for most of us, we've been doing this work for almost 2 decades or over 2 decades, is how much it's evolved beyond sort of the tactical elements of like who is able to provide this service. You know, I think at the point that most of us are involved, our competitors, we all could do like these projects well. And so now what we're looking at is sort of this evolution of real sort of like empathy and self-awareness. Like, how do we understand our clients? How do we really showcase our value, connect with them. And it's just an interesting component because a lot of us are doing very technically driven work, but this other element of empathy and connection is really sort of the differentiator, the linchpin of what it is we do. And I think that's just so exciting to be a part of right now. And it's really taken its own. And I think us as AEC marketing BD people are kind of leading that way. You know, our technical people might not be well versed in this, and we're sort of helping them see this. So I love it. That's like one of the things that really drives me.
Yeah, no, that's I love that. That's so true. And that kind of goes into like the value that we bring. So I just think that it's almost endless, the value that any marketing department can bring. And I'm just a big proponent encouraging people to, use that value and make sure that your manager understands that value, and make sure that, there's this connection between the marketing department and the technical professionals and how we're working together. I mean, Maisha, you said before, which I love, the whole idea of like business partners, like, we are business partners. We should look at each other in that way. And can you talk a little bit more about that, Maisha?
Yeah, I mean, I think when we talked about that before, it was like that that difference between kind of the technical staff and non-technical staff, and sometimes how different values are placed on those groups of people. But if we can start viewing each other, right, as business partners, I think of it like this. If I am going out and I am starting a business, I want the best of each person on that team, right? If I'm putting together the Avengers, if I'm putting together the mod squad, whatever I'm putting together, I want the best in accounting. I want the best in marketing. I want the best in legal. I want the best everything. And so I think if we can start to view marketing professionals as business partners, that they are bringing a different type of technical expertise to the table, then it can tear down some of these walls and some of this kind of devaluing of people who maybe don't have direct interaction with clients or are delivering the technical service, whether that's construction or architecture or engineering.
Yeah, just to build on what Maisha is saying, just as we put together teams to go after projects in response to RFPs and RFQs, I've worked for firms that really had the capabilities to perform everything in the scope of services in-house. But a lot of times you make that strategic decision to not use your in-house division and pull in the right partner that is just the expert at that particular building type in that particular city, with that particular agency. And you just comprise the team of experts. And I think to look at your team, technical and non-technical, as that, that ideal composition that you're striving for. You really want to build that bench and build that team of just everyone that's an expert in their respective area of expertise. And I think there's always been a lot of, value placed on, knowing the AEC industry. And to speak to what Janky brought up earlier about kind of storytelling and really getting into the heart of, going beyond just the technical competence. Like, yeah, we could do this building. I've been in debriefs where people say, you know what? All of the firms are qualified. Everyone can do this. It's about going deeper and getting into the stories. And, I look at writers and other marketing professionals, and everyone's like, oh, well, have they worked in the AEC space? I said, you know what? If they're a great writer and they're, they've got a journalism background and they can kind of extract those stories, I think things are changing in terms of building that powerhouse group of people that are going to get it done. And I think some of the diversity that people can bring to the table with different backgrounds that you might not have saw as the right fit, but it can actually be really, really good.
I love that.
Exactly. And as I had to touch on something too with, you mentioned the Avengers. I have boys and I'm well versed in both the MCU and the DCU. It's interesting because I had this analogy that you touched on. And it's like, if you so I will deep dive into this. Like if you only value Superman and everyone else is irrelevant because Superman has like these certain powers. And if you have like, your Justice League cannot all be Superman because you bring in a little bit of kryptonite, you're done, right? You need the Flash, you need all the Green Arrow, you need everybody. And it's silly, but if you have to be able to sort of understand the superpowers. And I think that's something, Alicia, we've kind of talked about when you talk about valuing what you bring, the storytelling, that is something. And, if you're only having the lens of measuring how much can you lift, then yeah, Superman does this. But, if you're measuring something else, that's where, these other characters come into play. And I think we sometimes fail to do that too, because we sometimes buy into this sort of myopic view that the only thing that matters was the technical competency. Can you do calculations? It's like, yeah, that's one thing, but how do I identify my own superpowers and communicate that?
It's about the total package.
Exactly.
And when you're looking at a great project manager, some of the best project managers I've ever worked with not only are great technically, but they can walk the walk. They can interview well, they can talk to clients well, they've got that BD charisma. They're that total package. And I think when you're looking at building a team for a project or building a team within your four walls to deliver and be that Justice League, it's about being the total package and being very complimentary and intentional in structuring your team to really, have people that offset this one plays to this one's strengths, this one helps balance this one's weaknesses. You really just put that together in a way that is untouchable. That's the goal. And to have diversity in terms of how you set things up with different skill sets, I think is really key, particularly in a field like marketing, where you have so many different things being thrown into that bucket of what marketing means. It's always going to, in this industry, involve RFPs because that's just the nature of it. But there is so much more beyond that. And if you think about the different skill sets and talents associated with that, it's really about building some depth in your department and in your firm.
Yeah, I think the marketing people, like us professionals, we have those capabilities. Like we talked about this before too, where like we touch everything. More people talk to the marketing department. We have such a perspective in the company. And so we know how to build that team. And I think one of the challenges that we have as marketing professionals is that we don't have a lot of people in the company that know that we have that capability, or that even trust that we have that capability. And so really, getting more people, again, to see us as business partners and to engage with us, like, we need marketing in the room, helping bring this along, regardless if it's RFP, website design, all those things where like we find out that a lot of times the marketing people were not involved and, they should have been involved. And so like, we really want people to start valuing more their marketing teams and knowing that, wow, they do so much more than just put papers together. I do think that there is so much there for people to realize.
I think we got to start showing up to meetings wearing like capes, carrying like a Thor hammer. Yeah, we need to just show up that way. Like I dressed like Wonder Woman today. Why are you acting so strange?
I
This
may or may
Tuesday.
not have a Monier nearby that I can bring to the next staff meeting and
Do it and report back. Yeah.
That's awesome. And to tie in with what you were saying earlier, Lindsay, about, if you're a good writer, you could be great at this. With the outreach I've been doing with colleges and universities, and again, most of the people I talk to, whether they're the dean of the engineering school or anything, they aren't aware of AEC. Like they don't really, they're like, are you calling about a STEM program? And I'm like, no, I'm calling about architecture, engineering, and construction. And,
Right.
A lot of times when I've talked to some counselors, they want to, give me to or direct me to the architecture school or engineering school, which is fine. But I'm like, I want your journalists. I want your English majors. I want your, because they're good writers. I want the people who are in entertainment or even hospitality. They're good talkers, so there really is a career path in this industry that I think, again, we all kind of get focused on, what we do. And a lot of times, sometimes we don't see the bigger picture because we're so busy with this outreach. I'm realizing, wow, all of us have a story of how we fell into this industry. None of us went to school to work in this industry. So if that's the case for 95% of us, then that means there's a slew of students right now that graduate, especially now during COVID, and they're like, I don't I don't know where I'm going to get a job, but they're amazing writers or they love talking to people. And I just feel like the more people knew about the career opportunities in this space, I mean, we would flourish.
Certainly, like, looking at colleges, I think the opportunity to align with just their business school, right? Like, this is a business and this is an industry. Everything you engage with from the moment you wake up, whether it's your house, the road that you drive down, the building you go into, right, is related in some way to this industry. And I think most colleges just don't really view that. But even more than looking at college students, like, what about the people who are actually needing to change their career, right? Because maybe the industry that they have been a part of is declining or is slowing down because of, oh, I don't know, pandemic. Looking even to other peers as grown adults who have not just writing skills, but they know how to manage a project. They know how to strategically move from A to B, B to C. They don't get thrown off if they have to move from D to G, right? And so even that is a great opportunity to find really great candidates to move into this space as marketing professionals. To be an engineer, how long you got to go to school? Longer than I want to go. Right? But you don't necessarily need to do that. You don't have to have a marketing degree to be a marketing professional. And I just think that's a great entry point into this industry.
A lot of the best storytelling that I see in the industry, to bring it back to that, it is not technical writing. There's a place for technical writing in this industry, and that is a unique skill set in and of itself. In terms of just like talking about, your firm and what you do and your differentiators, and even really well-constructed project sheets or sell sheets or whatever we want to call them, good website copy, that is not technical writing. That is something that's going to really speak to people's emotions and connect them to what is special about your firm and your people. At the end of the day, we are an industry that is selling people. We're selling our professionals, and the stories and getting deeper into those. I frankly think that some people outside of the AEC space can bring kind of a refreshing take on it, where they're not trying to just like inject it with jargon. And,
I agree.
I go through all these brand story sessions with firms, like to really get past the clutter of almost this Mad Lib style, like ABC Company Inc., founded in blah blah blah, provides
has this
like
many
it's
combined
so,
hours or years of experience.
Yes,
all
it's
the
just
buzzwords.
it's so predictable. All the buzzwords. It's very formulaic, and I feel that so many firms cannot get past the what. The what is very much shared among all of us. There's many firms that could say, we do these same three things. We do them in the same way. We are committed to quality, innovation, delivering on time, delivering on budget. Those are price to play points. You know what I mean? Like, you should be doing all that. You should be committed to quality before it goes out the door. You should deliver it when you said you were going to. What's deeper? What's below the surface? Really pushing people. And that's where I think someone with a journalistic background could really get into the heart of that story, extract, those elements of that story and turn them into something refreshing. Like, wow, I haven't heard that before. And when you read good copy, and again, I say copy, like whether it's on the web or in a brochure or in a presentation or even in the way people present themselves in terms of how they're talking about their firm, it'll stop you in your tracks when you hear something different, because we all say the same thing. For an industry that is so committed to being innovative, I think that there's a lot of predictability with what is being said firm to firm. And I think new perspectives can help shake that up a little bit.
I want to dive into like technical staff versus marketing staff. Like, we have our difficulties with staff in the company when it's time to like, okay, we need these things. And what I'm realizing, at least for us here, what I'm realizing is it's really just, there's some communication issues, but there's also there's a misunderstanding almost with what the department does, especially because at least here at HRP, we have evolved. Okay. So like back when, there was one person doing proposals for like 15 years, that one person worked here and only that they did proposals. And there were probably other people who kind of helped here and there. But I do realize that with some of the employees here, who've been here since that time, they kind of still almost view marketing as what it was, 20 years ago. as we evolve, we're changing, we're trying to be more creative. We're trying to come up with different ideas on ways to market because, right, like we don't have the product, as Lindsay says, like we sell hours, we sell people. So, how do we kind of put ourselves in digital media spaces, and how do we make our RFPs better than the next ones? Like, creativity is what makes that happen. When you're trying to be creative with someone who that's not their background, that's not what they do. I mean, how many times did a technical person tell you, but that's just what it is. Like when you're like, oh, with this approach, like maybe we can add something to it, but that's just what it is. That's it. We drill the hole and that's it. There's so much that, marketing can do to help with that. I just don't know if technical people are viewing us with that lens. I think sometimes they're just like, okay, they're going to package it up and send it out. Or they can create this. We don't need to give them that content. And how many times have we had that, a struggle with, we do need some content from the technical people. What are your thoughts on that? Like, what can we do to kind of, better that relationship?
One of the best exercises I was a part of was where we were pretending to be the client. Like we had pulled qualification responses for an actual RFP and looked at it from a client's perspective. Like, I need to grade based on these 5 criteria. Here are 7 submissions. How do we distinguish them? If you're able to do that, like you might be able to do an open records request or just anything that could get people to realize, holy moly, if I were on this university staff and I had to grade 10 responses and fill these criteria and give points to each of them, there's a lot of stuff that looks the same, right?
Oh, yeah.
And where is the differentiator? What is the person who's going to skim versus the person who reads every single word? And I think so much of what we do is based on empathy, like really from the other person's point of view. I'm not talking about being nice and sweet or considerate. I'm just really saying, like, if I were on the facilities department and I had to pick an engineer or I had to pick an architect, how would I do that based on the 10 submissions I have? And I think if our technical staff saw that, they would realize that the work that we're putting in is not just pretty pictures. It's really sort of like, how do I win this project based on this sort of movement, like how would I make it easy for someone to select us? And I think then I was a part of this session, and I really wished I could find a way to have more of my team be a part of this, because then I think they really start to see, oh yeah, like, we all do sound kind of like Lindsay's point, like we're all saying we're all about quality, integrity, service, or whatever our tagline is. Like, how do I really talk about that? How do I say what I did for this project beyond the statistics of square footage and stories, and instead say, what was the client need and how did I provide it? If you're able to see that, or if I think if anyone went through that process as a stakeholder trying to grade RFPs, they would have a tremendous value for what marketing in the AEC industry does. It's almost like my dream that every single person in America needs to work retail for 6 months, because then they will change the way they treat people. It's almost the same thing. Like, if you had to grade an RFP, you would see the work we do in a completely different lens.
Absolutely.
One exercise that I was in that was super valuable was we actually addressed our internal team like they were the client and like we were pitching our services, right? So in the way that we typically in our industry go into a client's office space or Zoom room and say, here's what we're able to do for you, that was kind of the same pitch that we did internally to our team. My takeaway from that is that people don't always know what marketing does. Because they either view just as a support service for your proposal, but they don't understand that we're aligned with business development, right? And we can also be aligned with the very specific meeting that you're having with the client. So if you're talking about a service, maybe we can put together some pieces that reinforce that communication or that meeting. Then we want our website to reflect recent work and not just the stuff that we've been talking about in the previous website, designed and laid out differently. And so certainly having that meeting, I could literally see people's eyes being like, oh, I didn't know you did that. Oh, I didn't know you did that. And so I think sometimes that's helpful too for people to be able to see, to just for marketers to do that pitch.
Yeah. One thing specific to, RFP preparation and interviews, I think a lot of times firms I work with and have worked for, it's about how much information can we jam in and throw at them. And I always see these sections like, additional information, like throw anything else at them that you have laying around. Like, and I always tell people like, put the pencil down, like we're done. Like if you've said it, put it to bed, like move on. And I think, you can say so much more by saying less. And I think that is a really hard thing for people to do. It's so much harder to be succinct. And I don't think that firms, sometimes even the marketing coordinators, as well as the technical staff, the project managers that we're coordinating with, they're not thinking about the reviewers. They're not thinking about the evaluation panel. They're not thinking about the fact that, you're responding to an RFP that's constructed this way. They're looking at a evaluation checklist or score sheet that may have, frankly, different categories. And it's like, how do you mash this up and blend it in a way that's going to make their job easy to give you, fives across the board? How do you build in other sections to your RFP that may not even be asked for? Maybe it is additional information, or maybe it's woven into the cover letter or an executive summary that says, listen, we've reviewed your RFP. We understand you have these 5 criteria that are very important to you. We're going to respond succinctly to each of them, and then we're going to point you to sections that further back them up. How do you make their life easier? I don't think we're ever thinking that. We're in that chase of, we got to get this through, there's 9 sections. We got to just jam as many project sheets. Let's put 2 on a page and just give them the whole story. And it's like, you could probably be so much more effective if instead of 12 projects, you picked 5 and you told more of a story rather than your typical canned description that doesn't apply to this job. I'd rather see you take time and drive that description the next level deeper to be like, this is important to the University of Illinois because of the fact that connected to the scope, connected to the client. And ideally, you would have done pre-work to even understand beyond what the RFP criteria are, know what their hot buttons are. But, you get into that chase mode where it's just like, quantity over quality. And I think that's where people just completely misalign the production effort with the reviewer. And it just becomes a monotonous administrative task, which, proposal writing really shouldn't be. You should be really putting a lot of strategic thought into them. And I think many firms get into the habit of, just going after so many because, we can do that. We got a shot at that. And it doesn't leave you time to truly customize the responses.
But you know what, Lindsay? I think that if it is administrative, at least just let me know up front. Right?
Right.
Because
right.
I think the other sometimes challenge that we have as marketers is that we want to do a deep dive, right, and a microscopic approach to every single effort. And the reality is that sometimes it really is just an administrative exercise.
Right.
And I think part of our leadership can be asking that question up front. Are we checking boxes? Is this a strategic effort? Did we pre-sell? And if the answers are no, not really. I know a guy who knows a cousin who knows an aunt. Baby, check the box and move on with your life.
Right. throw your hat in the ring and don't, you're getting boilerplate. Yep. And that can be okay too. Yep. Ideally less often than not. But I hear you. Some of them. And then it's like, well, why are we going after it in the first place? It begs these strategic questions that we have as business people, not just marketers, that is like, well, should we even be going after this if we're just throwing some standard, trash at them that we're not customizing to their needs?
Standard trash.
I agree,
standard trash. Just your standard trash.
And I agree with you 100%. I guess I'm more saying, and probably speaking to the people who don't always have that platform to stand on, right? Is that sometimes it is perfectly okay to just say, okay, right? If you like it, I love it, and be done with it. And I think it also, sometimes it gives us the ability to make a larger case in the future instead of getting sucked into this pursuit, right? Because especially if the ball has already been dropped. But if we can start to see a habit that we do this a lot, now that's a much better place for us to anchor into as marketing leadership to say, this is a larger problem and not just one wet gremlin. We got a slew of wet gremlins.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I always tell people, I'm like, you're pulling down my numbers. You're pulling down my hit rate. You're pulling down my shortlist rate. And I don't like that. Like, I'm not chasing this stuff because it's not doing anything good for my numbers. And I have statistics I want to hit, you know?
Yeah.
And it's tough. But you're right, Maisha, like there are the ones, and I think firms know, like, oh, this is the one, everybody in, team effort, let's go get this one. Like, I think they're few and far between. And then there are these ones where you make that decision, like, are we just kind of giving them the canned, response, change the name on the cover, slap a new logo, out the door? Those are there, no doubt. I mean, those are there, and you may get
they're not fun.
You may even win them. They're not fun.
They're not fun.
And that's part of the mix. I agree.
But back to everything that you guys all just said, the marketing people are the ones who are making this all happen. They're working. They're the ones asking those questions. Like, I think about how when I'm involved in RFPs, I'm like, okay, well, what the cover letter? Let's just start with the cover letter. I like to start my RFPs actually right from the cover. So regardless of how much time I have for this RFP, I could have 3 weeks, I could have 3 hours. I literally just start from the cover. I think, everyone kind of has their way, but I start with the cover. And I just really work through each section, no matter how hard or how much time the section's going to take me. I always start really from the cover. And when I get to the cover letter, which is like the second thing I'm doing, I'm like, okay, I refuse to say the whole HRP was founded, I like what is happening in the town right now or in the city or with them that's public out there. So I could find that because, if we don't have any other information, what is happening that we feel that, okay, our project could impact. It's going to impact the community in some way. And starting off that cover letter with that, if the marketing people are the ones doing this thinking, they're the ones thinking about this. I like to have my staff attend shortlist interviews. If they can go, even whether it's there to take notes or help with the technical stuff or whatever, I like them to see this is what it looks like. This is where you worked on the RFP, you did the whole thing. Now we got shortlisted. I want them to see and go and get that experience to be like, okay, this is who was on panel. These are the kind of questions that they ask, because that is the stuff we're going to need for the next opportunity. Mm-hmm. And then, especially if it's an agency that we usually do get shortlisted with or we work for, now we're hearing the questions they're asking. If it's not for us to be like, here comes the next RFP and they want to put all this stuff in, and we're like, no, remember when they asked this question? Remember how important it was about how the soil, where the soil gets, when you pick up the soil, where it gets dropped off. These are the things they care about. If we're not saying that stuff, how do we know that it's ever going to get to the right place or be used? And so that's the kind of value that we as marketers bring, where we're talking about different things and we're trying to get the technical staff to see everyone more as humans instead of, oh, well, this guy's an engineer, this woman is a geologist, or, that's who's on panel. So they're like me. They're engineers like me. They're architects like me. And it's like, but they're also people who are having constant issues with clients, invoicing, communication, project management problems. That's who they are, not just, oh, they have PE behind their name, just like me. And the only way that they're going to start to see that more is because of us marketers. Like, we're the ones seeing it.
Alicia, let me ask you this question. When do you think marketing expertise should be pulled into a pursuit?
I mean, at day one, like first phone call, first meeting, like right there. That's why I think it should be absolutely immediate, because even CRM, let's talk about the CRM real quick. So the CRM is usually managed by the marketing department, typically, right?
Yeah. And
so if you're at a network event or you met someone, how do you know that they're not already in our CRM?
Right.
Like you don't know that. And so this has already happened to me, where I got one of our guys in Missouri called me, thank God he did, and had a conversation with someone who was actually not only in our CRM, but a client, and he didn't know.
Yeah.
So I think as soon as people are talking to people, just check in with marketing and say, hey, I just met this person. Can you check the CRM? Can I check the CRM? And I think we need to be brought in ASAP.
I would agree. I think that marketing anticipates your next move, and we'll talk terminology in a minute about marketing and BD, and then I'd like to go back, if we may, to technical versus non-technical, because that's a whole subject in and of itself. But I really feel that marketing, if that's what we're going to call this role right now, marketing can anticipate. Because they have a seat at the big kids table. They're not put in the corner. We understand where the firm is going. We understand what we're trying to do from a revenue perspective, a growth perspective, an expansion perspective in terms of moving into new markets. We should be telling them what's coming out, setting up Google alerts, keeping our ear close to the ground. This is where marketing and BD mold into one. We're informing our teams because, again, they are not necessarily, BD is part of everyone's job, as they say, right? But they're not doing that full time. They're managing projects. They're in the weeds. They're billable. Somebody asked me the other day, one of my clients, what kind of person would be good to kind of help identify, really dig into capital improvement plans and budgets and what towns are doing with their money and stuff like that. I said, from my perspective, someone, and I don't want to typecast based on job description or anything, but a paralegal type of personality for me is a great resource for a company, getting into data and being able to be analytical about it and then inform decisions based on that. I mean, and then say, okay, listen, before we even go knocking on this door, here's what they're looking at. Here's who's worked in this town for the past 10 years. Here's their list of on-calls. We're not in either of those groups. Here's some of the architects we work with that, we've got a foot in the door maybe through them. We help anticipate before the RFP or the pursuit is even on the streets. And then I think we should stay involved throughout the whole life cycle. Absolutely. I feel there's a situation where marketing, we got shortlisted, we want it, see ya, on to the next. No.
Good job, team.
And that's why.
Good job, team.
Yeah.
Congratulations,
if you even
team.
It's like,
hold up, I was here till 2 a.m. Hold up. I was here. Yeah, I put an RFP together till 2 a.m. here, and Lance had to come pick me up with my kids sleeping in the car. Come pick me up. I got a good job team on that one, but and it was I got a good job team, but yeah, team Lance, Sloan, and Landon too, good job team, because they came up and picked me up.
Right.
But there is that hard line in the sand after the award that marketing is gone, and I think that's where the term marketing is so associated only with promoting and positioning and early upfront selling that. I think there is value that we can add throughout the life cycle of the project when you look at marketing as broader in terms of communications and how are we presenting our technical reports? My God, for firms that, again, speak to quality and consistency and everything that we're so committed to. I look at some of these reports. I'm talking even simple monthly reports, and I'm like, trash. It just doesn't look good. And it's it frankly is very contradictory to the stuff that marketing touches in the beginning to set this first impression that you can't reverse. And then you get them in the door and they're on the hook as a client, and then they get reports that are done in some Microsoft Word template from 2002, and it's not the same. Yeah. And I think we can keep the value going through all the way through, and the more marketing knows about the projects as they go through, the better we can tell that story when it's done, the better we can anticipate the next time we go after a feasibility study, the better, there's no harm in keeping marketing involved. And it's enriching as a professional to not just have that abrupt, see ya, you're out of here, you won the job, go get us another one.
Exactly.
It's fun to stay involved.
Well, I once had a client who, he was joking, but there's a lot of truth to this. He said, "Oh, Janky, you come in, you seduce us, and then we never see you again." And I was like, "Oh, holy moly!" And I did not seduce anyone in the literal sense. For the record, it's not how I do business. But I think he was bringing up the fact that at a firm I worked at, the business model really was like more of a bird dog. Once you get it in, now go away, go get the next thing. And I think kind of going back to what you were saying, Lindsay, it's a lot of it too is the client care and, the same elements of empathy, storytelling, connectedness that helped us win that project also help continue that client relationship. So having these I was really trying to do this, and I wasn't successful at the place I was at, and I'm hoping to be able to do this here, where we have like very specific touch points, almost like a client liaison. I'm here for you. I'm coming in. We had a DD set, a permit set. I want to see, and also just kind of like the thing that's interesting is our industry is really slow to change, but we are all experiencing amazing client service in our everyday, more like B2C lives. Like, we know what good customer service looks like based on, what Amazon does, what Apple does. So that still affects us as people, and as our clients are used to that too. So having someone check in, like, of course, like what you're talking about with the reporting, but even just like the periodic check-in as almost a third party, because I'm not going to get defensive if they talk about like how someone messed up there. I'm removed. I'm not going to start arguing, because at the end of the day, people tend not to be confrontational. If I didn't have a good experience, I'm probably not going to tell you. Like,
gonna lie.
I mean, well, Maisha, you told me like, you said you told me earlier, like, you don't seem very fiery. Yeah, I will not tell you that I will not send the dish back. I just won't go to that restaurant again. And I think I'm like 90% of clients, like, I'd rather not tell you that, like, your accounts receivable person is vicious and like shakes me down when we're 31 days past due. I'll just go to your competitor because I don't want to deal with it. And they'll tell you, like, when Lindsay, if you call, they'll tell you, like, by the way, this,
Absolutely. And you're right. There is an expectation, I think, because we've raised the bar as a society that anything less than like exceptional customer service is unacceptable. Like, because we'll call you out on Facebook or Instagram or whatever until we get a response. And you see it all the time, like people on a tear about, I ordered a mattress in a box and it didn't come, and there's like 249 comments. I'm like, that is crazy. Like, people go in and then finally it's like customer service, here they come, and they're trying to calm everybody down, and it's like, it's unacceptable. And I think you're right, Janky. People, particularly when they're in the throes of a project with either a project executive or principal in charge that may be removed, but they're still not really removed, versus maybe kind of a more of a neutral party, as a marketer or a business development type that could be like, hey, how's it going? Like, how is John to work with? Like, my experience with John has been this. Like, what have you found? Like, just a conversation, and those checkpoints along the way, I think a lot of firms are like, oh, we'll do a survey at the end of the project. Well, first of all, you probably don't ever. And if you do, it's like a survey monkey, like fill out 3 things, and no one's going to do it. But I think if you build that thread of involvement all the way through, and then if you think about it to the end, it's like, well, what else you got coming down the pike? That's what everyone's like, oh, these BD people need to be thinking ahead. Like, what else is coming out of this client? Well, if you stay involved, they might be more inclined to tell you and share that with you.
Right. I'll tell you why I asked that question. And you said it, I think, Lindsay, probably the best, the life of a project, right? Is because I think that is an incredible career opportunity for marketing professionals. If you get anchored only in responding to RFPs, you're getting stuck. And so finding a way to either back up earlier in the process or continue further through the process, through the project, right, is really where I think it gives individuals an ability to grow their career, but also get the exposure to information and to people that is actually beneficial for that project or that firm. And that's a really good, I don't want to say it's the only path, but I think it's a really good path that a lot of times people don't consider, because a proposal is something tangible, right? You can justify needing to ask people questions or get information. It gets harder when you're like, I want to go to the job site. I want to visit with that client. I want to reach out to them. But I think that is an opportunity, again, for people to grow their own skills, grow their career, and add value to the company. Junkie, where you are, they would be mad to say, no, don't speak to the client. When you have a natural heart and empathy for people.
Well, it
right?
goes
like,
to the culture too. So the firm now is like, please go do what you need, talk to whoever. If you need our help, holler. They're supportive of that. But
Yeah.
I think what you're saying, Maisha, is so important. But then there also comes a time where you as a marketer might realize that maybe this culture isn't going to change.
Very true.
Right.
I accept that.
And that happens a lot. And it's 100% that. And I completely agree with Maisha and Lindsay and Janky and all of you. Like this is it. Like there is opportunity, but you're right. Like through the whole, I mean, that's kind of my story too, like all of us who've excelled and continue to, climb that ladder or continue to grow and evolve. We all have had that opportunity throughout the life cycle of the project, from the very beginning to the end, being called into the room, being asked to speak, but also the confidence to say, I want to be there. Yep. Like even going to an interview, like I was never asked in my career to go to an interview. I asked to go.
Yeah.
And that just me asking, many, many years ago, that experience was so wonderful for me and so like important to my career that now I have to make sure my staff does that, because it really did change how I saw the whole process. And that is so important for us to be involved and to again have that confidence. So we know that cultures are different and some, marketing professionals don't have that opportunity. But I will also say that you have to ask, even though if you're afraid, if you think you won't have the opportunity, even if you're 98% sure they're going to say no, you still should ask and always ask for that opportunity, because that's how you're going to grow and get better.
I agree.
Yep.
I love that.
100%.
We're the amen choir.
Amen. Amen. God is good. God is good. Yes.
No one, I think, would ever argue the fact that communication is so important on projects. I feel like I read it in project approaches from every firm, whether it's an architect or a civil engineer or CM or an owner's rep, communication and collaboration, creating synergy among the team members and blah, 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 right? It's all the same stuff. We're all saying the same stuff. But like, who's doing that, right? Is it the engineer? Because, they didn't, my degree is in communication. So to kind of connect this back to this whole technical versus non-technical, I reject strongly the term non-technical. I will not associate myself as a non-technical person, because frankly, I'm very much a technical person in my area of expertise. And just as I don't know how to prepare a set of architectural drawings, so I'm not technical in that regard, these people couldn't do a lot of the things that I do. And they'll be the first ones to say it. I can't write that. I don't know how to do that. I don't know these programs you're using. Well, you're not technical in that regard, just as I am not in yours. So we are all technical people in that sense. And going back to where we started, which is assembling this Justice League of technical professionals, the non-technical is just a big no in my book. It just devalues you. It's like, well, you're not billable, you're pulling down overhead, you're just a waste of space, you just crank out RFPs, and I hate that term. And
it's
I
also
think we
a really
burn
good
it.
excuse to underpay people.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about that, or maybe not. Talk about
But
that
it's
privately.
But
talk about that
true.
offline.
That is very true. Like, again, it goes back to the value. And again, it goes back to the culture. So you have, like, we're so lucky here at HRP because our leadership, the CEO and the COO, they are marketers. They are business people. So they put a lot of, energy and money, into our department, because they know that, okay, they're going to take us there. They're going to get us there. And they empower me, like I can't even, I have no words on how much I'm empowered. So it's wonderful, but like not every company is like that. And so really just give your marketing departments an opportunity, like give them, say, hey, come to this meeting or be part of this. Or what do you think? Just ask, what do you think of this? I really think that it could change really how a lot of marketing departments are being run throughout the country and even the world. But when you think about like the smaller companies, like small, they have like one marketing person, the owner's there and they have a couple of people, but, small company where, they're trying to get work within their, whatever radius they focus on and whatever service areas, like they need help too from a business perspective. And there's just so much we can add to helping, small businesses and even just, large businesses too. But I think about like the work we do through SMPS, national organization, we all have been involved. And I think back to when I first read about the history and how it started, SMPS was called the Society of Bird Doggers.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's what it was called before it became. And like when Janky just said, like, it's not like we're not bird dogging it, but like
that's what it was.
That's what it was. Just like, here you go.
I didn't know that. That's
amazing. A lot of those
I didn't either.
OG SMPS like people, a lot of them were from San Francisco, which is where I grew up. So I knew some of the ones who were like part of, like they were in 40 years. Like when I was like a baby coordinator, they were the ones who actually helped start it. And that was part of the thing. It was trying, it was just when it no longer became illegal to actually put proposals together and advertise. And like there were actual restrictions in our industry preventing that. So yeah, it's crazy.
And so when you think of the national society that's tied into what we do as professionals, it started off with that name. And obviously it's been, 40 years now or whatever the case is. I think it's been 40 years. Yeah, almost 40 years. But but we still have to grow. We're still trying to grow out of that. I think, we're still trying to, push the envelope a little bit and really help. We want to help all of us and we want to help the people after us. And so, kind of what I like to think, because I've been doing so much DEI stuff too, which is kind of like my heart is so open, my brain is open. Like it's rough. It's a good thing and it's a bad thing because I'm constantly, my mind is going because there's just so much opportunity to help us, women, people of color, the industry, children. I mean, it's just
animals, help everybody.
Animals, I went plant-based, I'm like trying to change my life, like it's great. Like it's all good. But I wonder like, so a question for the group, what would you tell, the next generation of AEC marketer? Like, whether it was someone you knew or not, but like, what would you, whether it was just words of encouragement, what would you tell the next generation that's coming?
I have something controversial to say.
Say it.
Do it.
I want to be honest with you guys. I think my advice would be, do not put the word marketing in your title.
What?
I would say...
Unpack that.
I would say, I think there's a lot of historical and unfair connotations that come with the term marketing. That I think, as we've discussed, we are more than marketing. # more than marketing. Like there is so much more value that we can add beyond the box of marketing that we are thrown into, thrust into, pushed into. And I think that what we really are, there's so much communications, there's so much client relations, there's business development, there's strategic thinking, frankly, there's not a lot of marketing. I think there's so much more than marketing. And I think there's a lot of project management. I think there's a lot of, I don't know what the right term is, but I would, again, I know it's a controversial statement, particularly in this group of you fine ladies, but I just feel that I want you my advice would be go for a title that doesn't have the word marketing in it, because you do so much more and you're going to come in with a clean slate. And you can add all the value in the world to the marketing efforts of your firm. But you can also come in without baggage that's going to allow you to make any path that you want, to follow a project from its infancy stages, even before it's conceived as a project, through its life cycle, without the unfortunate and unfair connotations that the word marketing, I think, can come with, sadly, in this industry. And it's not every firm. And it's not every marketing coordinator or manager or director. It's absolutely not. There are firms that, including ones that you guys work for on this phone call, that for sure see the value. But not every firm does. And I think that to truly begin to change the connotations that I think have been associated with bird dogging and marketing's role in RFP production, we got to shake that term.
Okay, so I'm chewing on that. I'm processing that.
It's a big
I think there's
statement.
it is a big statement. I think there's some validity to what you're saying. I think the part that I'm struggling with is that I don't necessarily want to minimize my expertise, right? If marketing is my expertise, then pulling that out feels somehow self-defeating and almost minimizing to that. But I get what you're saying. Um, I think the reason you're saying that is because you recognize like there are companies and cultures that don't
Hmm.
value your marketing expertise. And I think that's where my advice would be, which is hashtag move on.
Hmm.
Okay.
Hmm.
Right.
Absolutely.
Because I think what we will find is that there will be a natural kind of selection, right, of
Yeah.
companies that do value marketing expertise are going to increase revenue.
Hmm.
They're going to be able to maintain team members. They're going to be able to maintain clients because they're using all of their superpowers versus
Hmm.
companies that continue to suppress that. They'll
Hmm.
naturally start to diminish unless they get new leadership and a new mindset. And I think for the individual, my advice would be certainly get the technical skills that you need to get and learn your industry. But if you find that you're in a company that just has garbage culture and will not let you grow, you're showing an appetite and a capacity to do more, and they keep suppressing you, then baby, spruce up your resume and go get another job. Because here's the
Yeah.
reality: marketing folks are hard to find.
Yeah.
Good
Good
marketing
marketing.
Absolutely.
folks are
Good
hard to
marketing.
find. So I'm confident you'll find another job and a place that hopefully will allow you to take that jump in your career. That's my advice. But I do understand where you're coming from, Lindsay. I do.
And
Yeah.
and I think Maisha, you and I both have the experience of working in-house and on the consulting side. And I think there's also a very interesting juxtaposition there too with some of the firms. And I do not mean to make a blanket statement across the entire industry and marketers in
Yeah, no, I didn't
general,
take it
but
that
I
way.
think, the way that sometimes marketing is looked at as a technical subject expertise in-house versus out of house, like we need a marketing consultant, we need a marketing expert. I think as an outside consultant now, I'm very much owning that title. I use that title, but my advice to the marketing coordinators coming into the AEC space to really broaden your options. That was kind of the foundation for what I had said. But I think we do have that interesting experience, Maisha, both of us having been inside AEC versus consulting AEC. It's two different sides of the coin. It really is. And I've even had coordinators, because a lot of times I'm working, sometimes I'm working as their marketing department, and sometimes I'm working with a marketing department. And I've had coordinators kind of like sheepishly say to me, like, they listen to you, but not to me, or even managers sometimes, and I'm like, sadly, it's because I'm the outsider now. And, they're not listening to you, and they should be. They have to pay me consulting dollars to say what you're saying in a different mouth. And it's not fair. But the perspectives in-house versus consulting are certainly,
Yeah.
different ones for sure.
I think I would say, for me, what the advice I would give is to really learn. I'm a huge learner. I love reading. I would learn like what it is your company does, like really understand and unabashedly ask questions. It might not be from like a pick level. Maybe you have to ask like a version, like an EIT or, like a young project manager or something. Really understand what all those acronym means, understand like what it is you do, how you guys make money. Like the more you understand their business, I think that'll give you confidence to be able to articulate what it is you do. That's nothing's worse than someone saying an
Yeah.
acronym and then not being able to explain what like CM at risk means. Like you need to know that. You need to
Yeah.
know
Right.
all the basics. If you can get certified in anything, my first certification was I was a lead AP, so that's an extra accreditation. But I wanted to be able to walk the walk, and that was a hard test when
Yeah.
I took it years ago. The other thing is like I would honor and like really sort of nurture your network. When you're a baby marketer and coordinator, those people around you eventually will become directors, owners, whatever. Like you don't see that then because you just are all like dorky coordinators together, but keep that. Like, I am so jealous of people now because LinkedIn is such a thing. Like, it wasn't a thing when I first started. So I'm in my brain trying to remember, like, what was the name of that gal I worked with? Like, what was her last name? And, I'll look it up. But now it's like link in with everybody, be active on that thing, understand the legitimacy. Just because that person might not be a principal at a firm, they can still help you. They can give you intelligence. They might be the gatekeeper. Eventually, they will rise up. They can advocate for you. They can help get you on teams. It is impressive, the network that marketing people have of support, even if they haven't met. Like, I feel like one of the things I haven't had a problem with for quarantine was the idea of like not seeing people, because half my friends are people I've just emailed throughout my career because we're constantly in contact at different offices or different companies. And we become friends, even though I've yet to meet them face to face. I have friends on LinkedIn that I personally feel are friends. Alicia and I have yet to meet in person. I think of you as a straight up friend of mine. Like, nurture that, give that value, because that's going to be, no one can take that away from you. You change jobs, you take your network, they could take your computer, they could take everything. The people who still honor you for you, like they can never take that away. And if there's like a compound interest with that. You start at 22, imagine where you could be at 42. Like, those people and the web that you can create, like, invest in that. I think everyone should, not just marketers, but if you can start doing that, it really will add to your career and give you those options. Like, Maisha, when you said like move on, most likely your job is not going to be posted, right? When you start chatting with your friends about like, this isn't really working. I've been asking and no one's listening. It's that friend who's known you that's going to say, you should talk to her, or you should talk to him. I mean, that's all my jobs have been that way. I've yet to have in the last, 15 years, I think I had I don't think I've had a job that came from a job posting. Yeah, wow. I think I had one or two in my entire career. Almost all of them have been like something like this.
So side note, Janky, I want to connect with you to tell me more about that story for some content that I'm doing, because I certainly encourage people to follow that same path, and they get way better results if they are looking to make a move than doing the, resume shuffle.
Yeah.
So
yes, of course.
We'll party.
Yeah. It's such a great point, Janky. And like, people in your network will know you and can align you with that culture that you wouldn't want to move on from. They're going to be able to kind of best advise you and not send you into the wolves. So I think that's such a great point. And earlier, as you brought up too, the CM at risk, like not being afraid to ask questions. I mean, I remember coming in with a communications degree, starting at a civil engineering firm, and there was all kinds of terminology getting thrown around like frisbees, and I had no idea what was being said. And I just remember, like, I can button my lip and just try to pretend, like, nod and be like, oh yeah, I understand, what you're talking about with the horizontal, this or that. And then, or I could just ask questions, and you cannot be afraid to ask questions. And there's a way that I still do this. Like, when I'm interviewing people for storytelling, I'm like, so just so I understand, like, I'll make it like, just, you mentioned something like, I just want to, are you talking about like the actual like bolts on it? Like, I literally will just like make me understand it in a way that I can then relay it, because there's just almost this blanket, like, I'm saying it wrong, but kind of like, there's just whatever I say, you're going to just kind of understand it. It's like, no, not always. Like, and neither is the person reading this. So take the time to dissect it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Like, so the person helpful. Reading it, like when we would do interviews and shortlist interviews, sometimes the fire marshal was on panel. Yeah, like when we would do it, and it's like, he don't know what that acronym means. So it's just, we always have to be, like, doing what we do, as like, we're all humans. Like, let's make it as easy as possible to understand.
Speak human.
Yes. Like,
speak human.
I have an associate that I do a lot of work with, and she always says kitchen table speak. That's what we shoot for, you know? And it's so
like
right.
that.
Like, I mean, this is just an industry where people want to deep dive into the technical, you know, ins and outs of stuff. But that is just, you'll snooze through that. I mean, let's get into why was this project undertaken in the first place? Let's just have a conversation about it. And again, that's where I think the storytelling aspect comes into it so much. And we are that the translator, I guess, you know, between, you know, what's actually happening on a project and what's interesting about it to the general public.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
Yeah.
I like you, Lindsay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I like you too.
I
I
love
like you
group.
too, Janky. I like this group.
Yeah. I love you all very much.
This is a powerful group right here.
Yes.
It really is.
For sure. I think what I would tell the next gen. So
Next gen.
it's hard for me to like think of the next gen and not already think of the type of people that they're going to be, right? Because we always like, you know, it's every generation, everyone's divided now in generations and how we are as a generation. But at the end of the day, we're all human, right? So that's really what matters. And I think what I would tell, I mean, this probably goes without saying, like, speak up, assert yourself. You need to talk. You need to ask the questions, just like Lindsay said. Like, you have to have confidence going into this industry and ask the questions. And just the other thing I will say is, like, we are so valuable. Like, we've been talking a lot about value, right? And really, like, around the idea that companies need to value their marketing professionals more and put more into that and really lean into that and develop ways that, things in the company, the way communication is, it's all kind of tying into, okay, marketing's always there. You know, they're the people you need to bring in. You know, we should be part of the pursuit, right? Not like coming in, like we need to be part of that conversation if we are going to pursue a client. But that value, like, I would tell the next gen, know your value, right? But be as valuable.
Oh, that's good.
Like, be as valuable as you can be, because I will say that even if you're a engineer, you know, so like a lot of the stuff that I'm doing with colleges and universities when I talk to engineering students is you are going to have a marketing component on your performance review. It might be 10%, it might be 5%. You need to know how to talk to people.
Yes.
You need to know how to write proposals. You need to know how to present in front of a panel.
Yes.
Those are things. So everyone knows, if we hire someone, an architect or whoever, we hire somebody, and not only are they a PE, but they also are a good BD person, that person is worth gold. That's the total unicorn. Package. That's the total package. Yep. It's the unicorn. We got a unicorn. And now that person's going to be stressed out working 80 hours a week. They don't even know it. They don't even know what's about to go down. But that's
just sign a deal with the devil.
Exactly. Those people are very valuable. So as a marketer, like, be as valuable as you can be. You can say you're the jack of all trades or whatever, but it's not that. You are good at everything. Like, be as good as you can be, and know that if your company isn't allowing you to be as good as you be, you just like move on, go to the next one, because there are companies that do value their marketing people, but you got to value yourself first. Mm-hmm. You got to put yourself out there first, and don't wait for your manager to ask you questions. Don't wait for opportunities. You chase those opportunities.
And you wonder why your daughter's so fiery.
She's gonna be the next
surprised when she's fiery. You're just like, I don't know where this kid came from.
Oh, she is too much, but I love her to pieces. I love her. All right, so what are we drinking? So I will go first. I have coffee because a sister needs coffee right now. And I know that it is 2:40 in here in New England, but it's not 2:40 for some of my beautiful people on this HRP podcast. So I got coffee, light roast, because, you know, I can't do the bold and the beautiful stuff, because it's not good for me. So I got my light roast. with
Doesn't sit
my,
right.
So what you got, Maisha?
I am drinking kombucha.
Oh,
This is a Kavita tart cherry kombucha. I love it. No one else in my house likes
Perfect.
it, so it's great because I don't ever have to worry about them disappearing, unlike Pop-Tarts and peanut butter cups. Um, and I don't know, kombucha, I like it's really weird. I don't like beer. I don't really like alcohol, but it has just enough of that kind of like,
It's like,
what's the word I'm
yeah.
looking for? Like fermented situation that I love it. And the stronger it is, like my favorite thing, this one's already been opened, but my favorite thing is when I first open it and it goes,
yeah.
psst. I'm like, oh. And then when I drink the first sip and it like
Yeah.
in my throat, I'm like, oh, it's so good. So that's what I'm drinking.
Great. How about you, Janky? What you got?
I'm a tea girl. My parents are from India, and so this is like a very comfort drink, I guess, not comfort food. So it is just black tea with milk and sugar. I must drink this like several times a day. I do get 1 cup of coffee. I'm not a coffee drinker in general, but my husband makes it, so I have 1 cup. But tea is like how I feel relaxed, and it keeps me hydrated, but it is just like having that with like the milk really just makes me feel comfortable.
That's good. All day long. So you feeling comfortable all day long?
I
need to
do.
get
We
with you.
finally bought
Like, how do you do that?
a nice kettle that can like quickly heat up. It's like electric, because what was happening is I would put the kettle and then I would get sidetracked and all the water would boil off and I would like nearly burn our house down. And luckily we're at home, so my husband would see it and he's like, okay, there's like a centimeter of water in here. I assume you wanted tea. So he bought this for me, and it's a godsend because I can quickly heat it up. It gets to like a certain temperature. I'm not like a huge tea fanatic, but this just makes me feel comfortable. And you got to feel comfortable,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Amen.
Mhm.
Amen. How about you, Lindsay?
I am just drinking some seltzer. I'll leave it up to you.
Is it hard
if
or
it's
not?
Alcoholic or not? No. It's sadly soft. It is not spiked at this point in the day. But yeah, I try to drink water. Everyone's like trying to drink water. And I keep a water bottle, but I felt like, this podcast warranted something a little fancier. So the fizz, makes me feel like I'm drinking something other than water. And I like it. And I'm drinking it out of an engraved glass that one of my clients gave me. So I love seeing my logos that I design on swag that, like I saw your HRP shirt. Fun fact.
Right here. Look at.
Oh, there you go. I love it.
See it right there.
Yep. Very nice.
Yep.
Very nice.
So
yeah, just having a little seltzer. It's a good afternoon pick-me-up. Low cal, kind of healthy. So that's what I'm drinking on.
Nice. So we were actually talking earlier about, so I haven't met Janky or Maisha in person physically. So I wanted to kind of jump into real quickly, what's the first trip you're going to take, when COVID is like gone, like, or at least when you feel like, okay, everything I'm about to do, if I'm going to get on a plane and go somewhere, like it's worth it. Like it's worth the money. It's worth the experience. Like whenever you feel you're comfortable to do that. And for me, there's levels. There's categories for this question, because I want to get on a plane and go to a beach as soon as possible. Like as soon as physically possible, financially possible, babysitter possible. That's me. And I'm either going with myself and I, or friends or my husband. So that is happening ASAP. But I really need to get out to Texas and Arizona to see my homies. Like I said this the first time we spoke to either both of you, that, I just want to get out there because we've built these, great relationships via, phone and Zoom and whatever and Teams. But I want to do that. And so hopefully we can do it where it's a SMPS, like build business.
Portland. Well,
that's what I was hoping.
Oh, that'll be fun.
That would be amazing because we're getting so much out of that experience. And then, it would just be great. So Because I was actually going to do that
That was supposed to be in Austin.
Yeah, because it was going to be in Austin.
It was in Austin.
And I was like, yay, me and
that's
JP
right.
gonna, cut it up.
We were all excited.
And then it went virtual. But yeah, I want to go on vacation. I miss my friends. I want to, me and Lindsay, we're headed to Napa Valley at some point soon. Like those things.
Oh, I can meet you guys in Napa.
See, we gotta, yes.
That's drivable.
We can make that happen.
Yeah.
That's me.
Well, the season for you to come here is almost over. I never encourage people to come here in the summer. You will question your life choices and wonder why in the world we live here. And so maybe that's a goal for like fall or winter when it's freezing cold where you are. And we're like, oh my God, it's 60. It's so it's frigid.
I need a sweater.
60.
I know. I
literally have on long sleeves in my house. It's like 75 degrees outside.
But Arizona hot is a whole nother situation.
It is. Don't come over here unless
my
you're
husband
serious.
grew up there, and we went there one summer in Phoenix, and I was like, it was no joke. Yeah.
I mean, if you have places to go where you're in the air conditioning, it's not that bad, but it really is a beautiful place and you want to be outside. And in the summer, it's literally dangerous. Yeah. So don't do it. But if he's from Phoenix,
I've been there. I'm happy to come. But when I visited him when we were dating, I remember when we landed, when I was in San Francisco, and the pilot goes, "Oh, it's cooled down to 105." And I thought he was hyperbolic. No, it actually cooled down, and it was now only 105. And I had a little trench coat, and someone on the plane was like, "Honey, you will not need that until you go back to San Francisco." And I was like, "What do you mean there? I just pack it away now." Like,
yeah, totally.
Wow. So Maisha, where are you going to go? What's your first trip?
So I would love to go to Chicago. Chicago is on my list. I can't fit most of my clothes now anyway. I feel like let's keep that party going, and I would love to eat my way through Chicago or eat my way through New Orleans. But I really want to go to New Orleans like when it's back. You know what I mean? Like, and for touristy spots, it takes a while for them to kind of get back where things are really opening. So New Orleans may not be my first trip, but it's definitely one of the more recent ones, or at least it's one I want to take sooner rather than later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with that. Both of them. I love Chicago. Mm-hmm. My husband's a Bears fan. I know.
Got you. He's got great hope.
He does.
Positivity.
Yeah, when he first told me he was a Bears fan, I was like, "Aw, you're so sweet." I was like, "You are a good egg." That's so nice. I was like, "He's gonna be a good guy. He's gonna be a good guy." Because like, if you can like the Bears, and as a matter of fact, since this is a podcast, I just want to say something real quick. Chicago Bears. Let me tell y'all something right now. If y'all keep making my husband mad every time they're doing trades this season, every year, like I'm coming for y'all. This man is so upset and aggravated every year. Like, y'all need to get it together. Like,
please save their marriage.
Seriously. So go ahead, Lindsay.
Wow, how do I follow that? It does speak to Lance's loyalty, though. I will say that. You know, he's a loyal, he's a good man. Supports the underdog. Gotta love him. So I feel like I'm gonna go anywhere Alicia wants to bring me because I think we could have like this Justice League, AEC marketing reunion, or not reunion, introduction, like Justice League come together.
Come
like
on.
I call Flash.
That would be pretty amazing.
I've already called that.
Yes. I'm more of a Marvel chick. I could do the
MCU as well.
Okay, all right, because I'm more. That's my team.
She's flexible. I mean, I think that would be very fun to do. I definitely want to go to Napa. Like Alicia can say this, like I really don't travel. So I haven't traveled much at all, really. So I think Texas is definitely on my list. California is on my list. And I have a really good friend that lives in St. Petersburg, Florida, and on the Gulf Coast, which I went for the first time about 2 years ago. And it didn't even feel like I was in this country. Yeah. I mean, the water was bath water, and it was just crystal clear. The beaches were white. It was not what I think I had in my mind of what I was going to see when I got off the
It's
plane in
so
Florida.
different, that
And it
side
was
of
my
the
first time
coast.
there. It was incredible.
Yeah.
Absolutely beautiful. And that was like a cheap enough flight, quick enough trip where, you know, you can, and again, these are all trips I want to take without my family. God love them. But that's a different type of trip.
problem
I
with
mean,
that.
there will be trips, you know, there's different types of trips we're talking about. But yeah, a trip for me would be a trip for fun. And, you know, those are the types of places that come to mind. Just some places I haven't been, some places I have been that are familiar that I just really enjoy. That's first up for me.
I think the pandemic for me was like, oh, this is why you shouldn't wait to do things.
Yeah.
Because you don't know if you'll be able to do things.
Yeah.
So that's something that I know has changed me at a deeper core. Like, can we go to Europe at some point? Right? I don't know. We may have missed that boat.
Right.
Who
Because
knows?
you think of like how
So-
long is it going to take for it to get back to what it was? Like even the New Orleans thing, I've been wanting to do Mardi Gras for years, and I always said, "Oh, we'll do it." Now, like again, to have the experience, it's going to be like 5 years.
It could take a little bit of time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could take a little bit of time. I know. So I'm from Las Vegas originally, and 777702. Anyway, you know, after the last recession, Vegas was hit really, really hard, and last year, kind of at the peak of COVID. My dad is still there. So my dad, my stepmom, they would drive the strip. I'd never seen the strip empty. Like I'd never, ever seen it empty before, where everything was shut down. And just Vegas is not like tourism is our industry, right? So it's not like, oh, well, we have construction or we have these other things, or in Texas it's like, well, we have oil and we have this and that. Vegas doesn't have anything else. And just remembering how long it took for them to bounce back after the recession, like I can see maybe one difference here is that people will be so anxious to just get out, and Vegas is like a cheap trip from just about anywhere, that it will help it bounce back. But yeah, it's a sad thing when you're from a touristy town and place, like, you know, it takes a lot of confidence in people to feel like their everyday life is stable enough that they can justify going to party, right? And so I don't know, we'll see, but when it does, I'm gonna step in there too, contribute to the local economy.
How about you, Jane?
Probably like you, there's different levels of travel. So I have yet to meet most of my team. So there's an Austin office, but our HQ is in Houston. And I only know a handful of them in person I've met. So that is something I'm really looking forward to. It's just being able to, like, you know, like once everyone feels comfortable, I got my first vaccine shot already, you know, take a drive down. It's not that far, but just spend like 3 days in person and just meet that office, like be in that space. Like, I don't know, I'm really excited. I recently got to see one of the guys. He came for a topping out party. And I think the thing that people don't realize is, like, I'm kind of loud. Well, not among you guys, because you guys are even louder than I am. But I'm very small. Like, I'm about 5 feet tall, and you can't tell that on Zoom. And so when the guy came, I could tell, like, he was excited to meet me. We were both chatting, but there's always this, like, I didn't realize you were so, like I'm like the size of a fifth grader. They're like, holy moly, like, this girl's small, like, because you can't tell on Zoom, like, you can see everything else. So that's something I'm super excited about
That's
doing.
so true.
And then I used to travel a lot for work. Like, before, in my past job, I was probably traveling every other week somewhere. Like, I recognized, you know, the flight crew. I recognized the people at the parking attendant place. Like, I had my favorites. And like, I had like not like crazy, but a good amount of like points and status. And we had trips planned for the summer. So that's the thing I'm looking forward to, is like, we'd start doing that again. Like, trips to Denver. I used to take those for work, but maybe even now just for fun. I would love to go back. I was an exchange student in Japan when I was in college, and I would love to go back. Like, that would be my dream, just to, you know, even though summer is really like hot and muggy over there, but just to go back with my family and kind of show them what I experienced and stuff like that would be really fun. I need to see my parents.
Yeah.
They're in India. They relocated and they're
Yeah.
getting older. So we should try to go out there, but obviously we didn't go last year. So that's going to be like, so there's like the necessity trips and there's like the dream trips, the bigger trips, and just like, I don't know. I also am excited to give someone a hug again. Like I'm a hugger and I like,
Oh my
it's
gosh,
like now it's sort of like, so it'll be interesting to be at an event and just see my girlfriends and be able to kind of connect once everyone feels comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to be very emotional.
Oh, for sure.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm driving out to see my grandparents. I used to see them 2, 3, 4 times a year. I would drive or go to California, and last year didn't. They're all in the same area now, which is great, but I'm literally like quarantining for 2 weeks to drive out there because if I get on a plane, my grandmother is not going to let me in her house. And I'm 100% positive I'm going to like have emotional meltdown just because they're such a huge part, you know what I mean? And so miss them so much. Yeah. So I hope that you're able to see your parents.
They're doing fine. They're just, kind of like chilling at home, like not going out anywhere. They're totally fine. But it is the kind of thing where I do get nervous, kind of like, because it's still a big trip, right? So when are like big international trips going to happen? I don't know, but I don't know. I try to stay optimistic in general. So I have a feeling like it'll all work out.
It will.
Side note, is your hair purple?
Not fully, but so these are my grays, and no.
For the podcast listeners, she's got amazing purple hair.
This summer, my son begged me to buy this thing called it was this pigment dye. They had different colors, like purple, blue, whatever, and it's for dark hair. So he begged me to buy it, and I bought it. Both of our hair is too dark, but it worked really well on my grays. Like it just worked there, and it's like just pigment. It's not like a hair dye, so it'll last for like a couple of weeks. And normally on Zoom, it just looks dark. It doesn't like really look purpley. So it's kind of interesting, but it's like my little bit of flair that I get, and I'm debating.
I love it.
I'm actually debating whether, I don't like, I'm on the fence of whether I should just like let my hair go gray. It's probably like 5% gray or not, because usually the difficulty of that is just like the grow out, right? But technically it's been growing out for a year and it's just colored with this pigment. So if I stop using it, you just see platinum highlights, so it's like, but it's sort of going back to like the reason it's almost like our industry, it's hard. There's sort of like this not perfect, but there's like a band of like professionalism and just also just like this area of like, where you're like the right age. You're not like too young, you're not too old, and sort of like where does that fit in? And so I'm trying to figure out like, okay, do I let myself go gray and just have like some things in the front, or do I, like once everything's back, do I go back to, getting that colored? So for now it's purpley. So
I have to say, for everyone I know, woman that I know that went gray, it was that they were fearful in the beginning, and then now you can't tell them nothing. You hear me? You can't tell them nothing. They look great, and they don't have to deal with like the whole like, oh, I got to dye my hair, and it's just, it's you should try it. You should try it. And like I said, woman, right? Because the men do it all the time. Ain't no one saying nothing.
Well, even some young girls are literally like dyeing their hair to be gray. Yeah.
And people like really go gray.
My husband was a young gray. Like I think he started when he was like 18, 19. So there got to be a point where he just was like, I can't color it anymore. It's getting ridiculous. But I didn't, but that's funny because I was at the topping out party and because I'm so short, like everyone's kind of like a head taller than me. And I wondered, like, does anyone notice people? Like, no one, I was like, no one said anything. So I'll just go with it. Maybe it's on brand for Kirksey. They're just like, she's doing her thing.
I think it's fun.
Yep.
Well, you had your
well, the
special new
hard
hard
hat was
hat, right?
on,
So you wouldn't, no one
vest,
can.
the vest that fit.
You were all decked
that I
out.
was super excited about. Like,
I love it. I was excited for you. I remember seeing your post. I think it was like the day after we connected, and I was like, I'm gonna like that because I felt it for you. I was like, that is a real
article.
Right
like,
there.
What does it mean to have like a vest that fits you, and why is it a thing? Like, why is a size small vest?
There's actually
the vest is a thing. That's the name of the article. The vest is a thing.
They actually the women who build. It's a summit. It's a conference that the Construction Institute here in Connecticut puts on. It's a great conference. They have it every year. It's actually this week. It's a virtual conference. And last year, I don't know if it was last year. I can't remember now, but there was a woman there who owns her own company, and her they make safety apparel for women. And she was on panel, and she talked about how, she had gloves and gear that was given to her over the years. That was the gloves. So it's just, you're a construction inspector, or this is your job. And her gloves were coming off of her hand. Like, how are you going to give safety apparel that don't fit? How are you even going to hand that out and be okay with that?
Yeah, we used to have at the place I was before. They'll get kind of mad at me for saying this, but like they only carried like 4, because we weren't on the site a lot, so they only had like 4 or 5 vests, and they were all size extra large because that fits everyone. And I begged for it technically covers my body, right? So I begged for smalls. I would always get excuses like, it's the ordering season's out, or like why, whatever. It's always like this like specific, like some kind of reasoning, pushback. And I remember, so when I wear this, because I'm not that tall, like the thing goes past like towards my knees. So it is. And I remember one time it getting snagged on a handle because it's all so big. So it was unsafe. Like I was kind of like, I'm actually going to cause like an OSHA incident by wearing this thing. Like, and it was, but it was the thing like nobody could understand. And then when I posted that, I got a lot of women who were like, yes, I know, like I never got a vest that was size small. And, like, it's just an interesting concept of the inclusion that like you've talked about. It's just a teeny tiny thing, super small, like, but it's just like I have my own vest, like it's sitting right here. I don't have to borrow anyone's. Like I'm worth a vest. Like I'm finally at a company that's like,
I wish you all on the podcast could see her smile over this vest.
Well, it's like I'm finally at a place that like values me enough that I get my own vest that fits me and has like the branding behind it. Like it was just like the teeniest things. Like when we talk about culture, it's like that's what it is. It's like it's in the small things. It's not in the statement that's on the website. It's in the fact that like no one thinks twice about like making sure I have a set of PPE that fit me, and they know. A few people that have seen me in person know how big I am, and they got me the right size of everything. So,
I remember so our department orders for even safety apparel, and with the vendor we use, they would have to struggle to find extra small in shirts and coats. We ended up I found the coats that were in our store on a website. I bought them individually because they were extra small for some of our women who are just more petite, and shipped them here and went down to the printer down the street to get our logo on it. We had to do all of that just to get them a jacket, and I hope that they change that up, because I don't understand why they won't even offer it, because there's a lot of people everyone's a different size, and we should be able to get that for any size. Doesn't matter.
Yeah. And I think that's also kind of, I know this is our play portion, but like the thing of like, who notices these things, so like, because you're in marketing, it's like the fact that you're in the logistics of putting this order together make you see sort of this disparity of going, you know what, there's a couple of people who just, even after a couple cheeseburgers, they are not fitting into a size medium. Like they need a tiny size because that's how they are. And what that makes you feel like to have something that fits. Oh, it's just, not like flopping around, making me, it just makes you feel like you're put together. It's so awful.
So I hear you. I do have a question to ask the group too. One of the things I was thinking about was like, what's the like my favorite purchase that I've ever made that like, and it's a practical purchase. Like it's something that you don't even think about, but it's something you either use all the time or every time after you use it, you're like, that was a good purchase. Like that's good. And so I think for me, my favorite thing, I mentioned this to you guys before, not only do I wish I invented it because it's so practical, but like I use it all the time. It's the lint brush, the tape around a stick.
It's like, I'd be a billionaire by now.
And how did I not think of that? And I use it all the time. I mean, and every time, like right before I put it back in the drawer, I look at it and I'm like,
you need one that's branded with your firm. So like every time we use it, it has the logo on it.
Yeah. I know, we should get the swag. They're going to be like, what is
move your environment forward.
I love that thing.
Oh my God.
How about you, Maisha?
Okay, so technically this is not mine. It's my husband's. I bought it for him for Christmas, but I use it more than him.
That's why you bought it.
It is. It's a neck massager that like goes around your neck. It's got these little arm things that you can put your arms in, and it just has these knobs that just kind of massage, and it's warm. And every single time I use it, I look at him and I'm like, I'm such a good wife. I bought this for you. And it's the only thing that I would say I don't like about it is that it actually has a timer on it. So then it shuts off automatically. But I think that's literally so that you get up and like do something different, or you'll just sit there. But it works well. It works well on your neck. It works well on your lower back. And sometimes, we're sitting so much that if I can just throw that on before I go to bed, I sleep so good. Or I'll do it in the morning for a couple minutes. So yeah, that's my favorite thing. Probably like most recent purchase for sure.
How about you, Lindsay?
So this was a purchase of my husband's, but it's something that I am so glad that he purchased, and I use it every day, and it's a game changer. And this is not a paid ad, but I feel like I'm bracing it that way, but it's the Ninja Foodie. Do you guys know what this is?
It's like a blender, right?
It's not, they make a blender, but this is like an all-in-one multifunction cooking device. So it's an air fryer, which is what so Super Bowl Sunday weekend, like a couple of years ago. And I was like, just go get an air fryer because I want to make like.
And he bought that?
Totino's, pizza rolls. I was thinking he would spend $50 on like a kind of a junker air fryer. Just something.
Nick be dropping the money. Like
you know how Alicia knows how he is.
Here's a $400.
He comes out with this like. It was $200, but still, it was quadruple the price of what I was expecting him to come out with. So he goes into Walmart. I'm like, get a basic air fryer. Oh no, he buys a multi-function machine that, to his credit, it replaced my slow cooker that didn't work anymore. So it's an air fryer, it's a slow cooker, it's a pressure cooker.
It's a total ad right now.
You can do it all.
5 easy payments.
I was just say, cut to me like, struggling with the junky air fryer. But no, it's like a lifesaver. And what I love about it is, I work from home typically. And a lot of times like time gets away with me. I'm like, oh my God, it's like 6:20. Like I have to feed these people that are upstairs waiting for me. And like, oh, did I take anything out from the freezer this morning proactively? No, I didn't. So I'll have like 2 frozen chicken breasts. And you can like put them in frozen and like magically push a series of buttons. And then like within, I don't know, I'm probably saying this wrong, but probably like 25 minutes, you can take frozen food right out of the freezer.
Dang.
And it'll cook it, pressure cook it. You can go quick, easy recipes. And there's one more plug, and this is not a paid ad either, but there's this blogger. She's in Atlanta, and she's like, I think she's like a lawyer, but she is a big Ninja Foodie person. And it's called myforkinglife.com. I follow her. Like, I don't even know the woman's name, but My Forking Life, I can't forget that. She's great. And her recipes are very easy. And like, I always end up having the stuff in the cabinets, which is rare for me because I'm like, sometimes my domestic skills are not the sharpest, but it's a life changer for me because it just makes cooking easy when I like don't often devote a lot of time to that. And I do enjoy cooking, but like during the week, it's just very easy to use. And everything in the air fryer tastes better. It's like, chicken nugget and with the kids, nuggies and fries, like they eat all that stuff all the time. And it's like, you chuck them in, they come out crispy.
Good
You got to get a Ninja Foodie.
I think that's our commercial.
That's right.
Go ahead, Janky.
So I will preface this because I have a difficulty spending money on myself. I've had that even as a child. And so as an adult and a mom, it just feels really difficult to ever buy anything really nice for myself. So there's two nice things I have. And the two nice things I have are this headset. And I just bought like an Apple Watch, I guess like a week and a half ago or something. And it's a Series 3. So I still cannot like fully splurge. So it's like the lowest end thing. And there's like coupons and open box and stuff like that. But the headset is a story I'll tell you about because at my old firm, they bought like Bose headsets for everybody. But
nice.
it was for a party, like a Christmas party. And at the last second, they wanted to give it to everybody, to like even the interns, and they couldn't find enough of the headsets. So I was asked to give up my headset for an intern because they couldn't have enough. There was like like 15 people and then 14 headsets, right? So they were like, hey, it's like kind of the de facto thing that like someone in leadership does, right? They're like, can you give up your headset? So I was like, fine. So, I gave up my headset, but I never got a new one. And I never let the pick of the office forget that. Like I was like, you never got that headset for me. And then finally he was like, Janky, just buy a pair. Expensive, I don't care. Just like, stop talking about this. So nice. I went to the Bose store and I was like, I want like your primo headset. So I got this. And this was like, when I was traveling, so much, it felt like I was like a legit traveler to have, like I had like, like the bag that I always carry. It was like, on point to like fit underneath the seat. And I'd whip out the headset with the case. And it just was the perfect, like, please don't bug me. I have like 2 hours to myself where I'm not talking to a human being. And it just really made me feel like this was like a legitimate thing that was like fancy, where normally I would never have spent this money for a headset. I would buy the cheapest headset that would break, and you'd probably spend as much buying like replacement headsets.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But these are the two things that are like mine. No, they're like the nicest things I have. And it just like reminds me that sometimes it's okay to like kind of like splurge on something valuable if it brings you so much joy, kind of like your Ninja Foodie. It's like if you sort of amortize it, you're like, I'm only paying like pennies a day, and it's every time I use it, I feel good. So like this, I look at it and I'm like, oh, it's like reminding me to stand up and drink my water. And it was probably all in like $10 more than a Fitbit because I found coupons, but normally I just never would allow myself to do that. And I feel like that's been a big change for me, is to allow myself not to be dead last and like cheapest like item, like it's okay for me to have some things that are nice and, stuff like that.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
Very nice.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, I love how we all have that purchase or that one thing, that we use all the time, and it's just great. Like my friend Amy, she showed me this, I forgot what it's called now, but it's like this thing that sits on your counter, and it's where you cut up food on it. It's like a prep. It's like I forgot what it's called. A prep deck. I think that's what it's called. And you open it up. It has a cutting board that's like, it folds, but it's a cutting board. You can place your phone or iPad on it. There's like a stand, and it has like all these little like containers. It has all these like little knives. It has a little thing where you can pull the your herbs through to like get your herbs off the stem. It is amazing. So she sent it to me because she was like, look, I want this for Mother's Day or something. It was like last year. And I was like, this thing is amazing. like just the way it was set up. And like I had a little garbage bin you could put the stuff in and then throw it out. I mean, it is like top notch. And so she ended up getting it and she got me one. And let me tell you, I was like, I couldn't believe it. I felt like I just won $1 million. Like when I got that thing, and that is something actually I do use when I cook, which is not often, but when I do, I pull it out and it's a beautiful thing. Like it's just everything right there. You can clean it up. And yeah, I think, having those things, even if it's gifts or even if it's someone
like the massager,
like Right. Like if it's in your house, it's just one of those small moments we can look forward to on those types of things. So that's great.
I love that your watch and your headphones bring you so much joy, Janky. Like you deserve that. And it's so true. Like you said something that kind of resonated with me. Like I don't know if it's like the maternal thing or what, but you always, we don't need to put ourselves dead last. And I think I'm that way too. And I'll, wear even socks that are, like when was the last time I bought myself new socks? I couldn't tell you. Like, it's just like in make those little investments in yourselves. Like, oh, I want to get this new eyebrow pencil, or just little things can end up bringing happiness in ways that, you should do for yourself. And we don't often do that because we're always focused on our clients or, our firm or our people or our children or our husbands or really everyone besides us. And I think it is important to take those little moments every now and then to do something for you. It's great that you did that.
Well, thank you for hanging out with us this whole time. Listen to us cackle.
Yes, thank you.
It's great to be here. You had such a great group that you guys put together for this. I love just the different perspectives, and we have so many things in common, but so many things that that aren't at the same time. Like, I think that's one of the things that AEC marketers, are united about is we all no one ever came into this knowing this was what we wanted to do, but we're all here and we're all doing the damn thing. And, it's in different ways and in different firms and in different cities. But, I think it's a great group, and we had a really good discussion about just
thank
what
you.
we deal with.
And you've been so generous with your platform about just like, I think it's such a great way to have this to sort of like, you sort of helped elevate and highlight different people who are leaders and maybe not necessarily are getting the type of recognition they deserve. And you've done that personally, as well as like through your platform at SMPS. And I think that's so powerful because that's how we help each other, is sort of changing that narrative. And I've been so inspired by what you've done. And this is so great that your company does this too, because it's, it could be just self-serving and talking about what you do on a technical basis and your expertise, but you're like opening it up and showcasing other people. And that's sort of this generosity of spirit that has to be part of your culture. I mean, the fact that you're investing so much time in this, it's really, it's very inspirational.
I'm excited to share it and continue to push and promote and hopefully drive some followers there that you don't have, that are in different circles that Janky and Maisha and myself have, that could maybe come over to the dark side with HRP.
Very cool.
I love it. You guys are doing an excellent job. I love it. I love watching you just do your thing.
Thank
You guys have my heart, and this was amazing. I can't wait to hear the final thing, and I'll be in touch with each of you individually just because I like y'all. That's it. All right. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thank you for joining us. 312 is a production of HRP Associates, hosted by me, Alicia Washington, produced and edited by Tom Simmons, with technical assistance from Everett Anderson. You can contact Lindsay Matthew at lsaragusa@goldeneggconcepts.com, Maisha Hagan at admin@bosslady.coach, and Janky DePalma at jankyd@kirksey.com. If you like this podcast, don't forget to subscribe and rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. Check out our YouTube channel as well, and reach out to us through hrpassociates.com to learn more about our services. Stay safe, everyone, and we'll see you next time. you.